Hi everybody and welcome to the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show, brought to you by FantasyDonks.com, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know to start playing daily fantasy sports. I'm Sean Big Papa Williams.
I'm Jamie the Learjet Lear.
And we'll be bringing you all the action from this week's Window 10 400 at Pocono Raceway. We are at the Tricky Triangle this weekend in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. The race is this Sunday, August 2nd at 12:30 Central on NBC Sports Network. And we have some really big news for you this week in NASCAR. But before we get there, let's get the track breakdown of this week at Pocono from Lear.
All right. So pretty much Papa already told you a little bit where it's at. But definitely the Tricky Triangle this week. The average cautions that we have here is about 7. So it is a 160 lap race, kind of like last week when we had the 2.5 mile there at the Brickyard. But not so much lapping here. If there's going to be a lot of green track racing, then they could start doing some lapping of traffic on this race. But other than that, man, it's got the tricky turns. All of them are different degrees, including the tunnel that they have there. So
yeah, the tunnel turn.
Yeah. So multiple grooves for these guys to run in this week, especially when they do the restarts. Last week they were not last week, but last time they were racing here, they were basically doing up to 5 wide on the restarts on the straightaway. So. But definitely some good racing, and I'm definitely looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, and if we've learned anything from this track, the leaders tend to stay up front unless there's a caution, and then we get that 5 wide racing from time to time.
Because this past spring, Martin Truex Jr. led 97 laps with Kevin Harvick with 39, so that was pretty much the entire race between those two.
This was that Truex hot streak that he had there for a while and just dominated. So now that we've got the track situation broke down, let's talk about the big news. DraftKings has listened to the fantasy players out there. It's a great thing in the industry when one of the sites is listening to what we have to say, not just us, but the entire community. And everybody was having a problem with the overlap that was happening with the only 5 drivers. There were a lot of teams that were identical, that were sharing pools. It was problematic. I think that was decreasing a lot of people jumping into the sport. So the first thing they did was add an extra roster spot. We got 6 drivers now.
I definitely like that.
Yeah. The second thing that they did was they eliminated the pass differential part of the scoring equation. Basically, all this does is it helps lessen the blow if you get in a wreck. Essentially, like, you're not going to go quite as negative.
Yeah.
The points that you were getting out of it was, if a guy moved 20 spots, you got 10 points out of it. It wasn't that big of a deal. And the real problem that DraftKings said they were having with it was that the actual stats have to be adjusted after the race.
Right, live.
And, and because they want to pay out as soon as the race is over, it was easy for them to eliminate that
didn't
stat.
quite go in there with their format that they had going on there. So, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's going to completely switch up everybody's strategy. As far as the only thing that I kind of do not like about it is we still got stuck with a $50,000 budget. And so I know that obviously the drivers, their price points obviously came way down, but still it's one of those where you're going to have to look for some of those low-end guys.
Yeah, it would have almost been better. It functionally works the same way, but I'd have almost rather seen 60 grand and
or 55,000, something like that. But definitely would have loved to see a little bit of increase on the budget there. So.
I think that with this scoring change, it's going to put even more of an emphasis on laps led and on fastest laps. We've said this before on certain tracks; those are the most important scoring statistics. I think with the adjustment here and the design of this track, that's what you're going to need to focus on this week. So with that said, that leads us to our Who's Burning Rubber segment. If you're wanting to find out the How We Did Last Week segment, that'll be at the end of the show. Just mixing things up. We had a couple people that wanted us to go in a different order, and we're flexible. And
try something new.
Try to deliver what you guys want. So with the Burning Rubber pick, my first pick this week is Matt Kenseth at $9,000. He's a great buy. 2 months ago, he went from 19th to 6th in the race, putting up 54 fantasy points. This week, he qualified 6th. I think that easily means that he can win the race. I have him as one of the favorites to lead laps on this track, and run the fastest laps. Look, all the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas are in play this week, in my opinion. I'm even a fan of stacking all 4 of them.
Yeah.
You can go Kenseth, Edwards, Rowdy. Kyle Busch is just on fire. And Hamlin, and I think you're off to a great start. When you do that, you're going to have to value buy. But, these guys all qualified well. And in the second practice today, they literally ran 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the fastest laps.
Yeah.
So,
I definitely like the Matt Kenseth play. As far as his history here, he's always done fairly well here at Pocono. So, but also too, he's starting within that top 10, so he's going to be up front there, and should be up there most majority of the days.
Yeah, and it's not just that he's up there; it's that he's up there with his teammates, right? And I just think that they're going to get to the front together, and those 4 cars are going to share the lead laps and the fastest laps because they're going to be drafting together, staying together, and as long as there isn't a whole lot of action behind them with cautions, I think they're going to be able to stay up there.
Yeah,
that's just my thought process. So, Lear, who's your first pick for the Burner Rubber segment?
My first Burner Rubber guy is just the hottest guy that's in the NASCAR circuit. Definitely going Kyle Busch. He qualified first here. Will be starting in the 1 spot. So, I definitely like Kyle Busch. He's been on a 3-win streak, just on fire. He's trying to still get into the chase. So he's still got that fire underneath him to get that done. So I definitely like him to go. I don't usually choose 1-to-1s, but I definitely like Kyle Busch going 1-to-1 this week. His price point's $10,800. So with the new scale that we have coming out on DraftKings, it's definitely, he's one of the higher priced guys. Now that you got to have 6 drivers. So, but he obviously has good history here. Last year he finished, I believe it was in the top 5.
Oh yeah.
So, I think he finished here. I'm sorry, 5th. Yeah. Number 5 this spring. So, but definitely like me some Kyle Busch this week. And look for Rowdy to get number 4 in a row. Yeah,
don't mess with Rowdy. And all you need here is that these JGR cars are just running amazingly, and Kyle Busch is tearing up the track. I mean, we've got 4 out of the last 5 races, the guys won, and dominating fashion in 3 of them.
Yeah,
it wasn't even close. I think it's a great buy. The question with him is how many people are going to own him, and is it going to be too much for you to get any sort of separation?
So here's my thing on that is I think he'll obviously definitely be highly owned, but if you're obviously wanting to win your contest and be in the money, you have to have the same type of drivers that are going to score the high points. So this is the one guy that you definitely will have to have on your lineup in order for you to even be up there in the contention to even win the contest.
Right.
So,
well, and then
regardless of his ownership percentage.
I agree with that. The only problem with that theory, though, is the second part. Is his price so high that it doesn't allow you to build it doesn't allow you to build the optimal lineup?
Sure.
That's the question. And that may be the case. But I'll tell you this much. I definitely have Kyle on a team running actually in the lug nut on one of my 2 teams that I have running in there this week. So
yeah. Who's your second Burner Rubber?
My second Burner Rubber is Hamlin, dude, at 9,300. Like I told you, I was all over JGR this weekend, and I'm not lying. Then he lays down the rubber at Pocono. He finished 10th here 2 months ago and put up a 33. Now, I realize that sounds a little low. That's the good news. And this is why I'm all over him. In his last 5 races, that was his worst finish at the track, is 10th.
Yeah.
He also has, on this track, he has the most laps led. He has the most fastest laps, and he has 4 wins and 8 top 5s in 14 races on this track. Dude, that is just murdering.
Phenomenal statistics.
Murdering the racetrack. And I'm all over him this week. So, I just think at 9,300, you're almost foolish not to buy him.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there, and I will have Denny Hamlin in a lot of my lineups this week. I actually liked him prior to the show. So, but Denny Hamlin owns this track. He's another JGR guy, and his price point $9,300. Obviously, it's an awesome price point for a guy of his caliber. So.
All right. Well, we know the pick's not going to be as good as Hamlin, but who's your next Burner Rubber pick?
My next Burner Rubber guy, I'm going to actually swerve against the train that we've been building so far with JGR, but go over to a Hendrick guy. that has really good history here, and that's Jimmy Johnson. At the beginning of the year, Jimmy Johnson and Kevin Harvick were just owning the NASCAR circuit.
Oh, yeah.
And Jimmy Johnson's just been kind of disappointing of late, with his team, he's always obviously in contention. So I definitely love Jimmy Johnson this week. He's starting in the 12th position, so he's going to be right up there to get going when the race starts. And then last year, I'm sorry, not last year, but the last race here, he finished third. So he had a really great finish here a couple months ago. So I look for him to also perform very, very well again this week. And that also comes along with. He had some issues in that race where he got put into the wall and a few other situations. So he overcame those adversities and finished well. So I definitely like Jimmy Johnson here at Pocono. Only issue with Jimmy is his price point. I mean, he's $10,400. That's definitely one of those guys who are gonna go all in and say, hey, this is my guy. So
well, I'm not on Jimmy this week, but I understand why you are. Look, I think he's the second least owned guy out of the 10K plus guys. The reason being is for all the reasons you've said, he's just not as hot as he once was. And so they've lowered the price. I think the trend of people is going to be on Kyle. I think the least owned out of the 10K plus is probably going to be Kurt Busch, and then Jimmy. And if you're going with either one of those guys to try to fade the ownership percentage, I'm all about it. It makes sense to me. I think most people because after that, most people, you've got Kyle, you've got Truex, like that.
Yeah. I mean, Truex is 10-3 this week, so he's right there at that same kind of price point area. And then Kevin Harvick, as normal, as he's been since DraftKings NASCAR inception, is the most expensive at $11,700. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just because of that price tag, I don't even have him on my radar this week. Do you?
Yeah. I mean, I love Kevin Harvick, all right. I think he will do very well. He's starting, I believe, in the second spot or third. But, God, at that price point, it's just so hard to put a team around him that it makes it difficult for you to get a full competitive lineup. But I definitely think he's going to score quite a bit.
No, I completely agree. And the other problem with his price point where it's at, I don't know that it's possible for him to reach the point line that he needs, even if he goes and wins the race.
Because I mean, he could easily, just like Truex this, a couple months ago, lead, almost 100 laps, and win the race. But the rest of your team is going to have to, make up a lot of points.
It sacrifices too much, in my opinion, unless you're willing to roll some dice on some duds and hope that they put up the min points you need to get by. I mean, that's just the nature of fantasy when you have to pay up for the big guys. That's why I'm fading them. So you got our Who's Burning Rubber picks. Now it's time for our Who's Going to the Garage. Just in case you haven't watched before, this is a segment where not necessarily we're talking about a guy that's going to have his car broken down, but maybe it's a guy that's overpriced, maybe it's a guy that's overqualified. It's just a driver we think you should avoid this week and send him to the garage with us. My first pick here is Tony Stewart. He's 7,900, and smoke is cheap. That's dirt cheap. He looked good so far. He qualified 5th. He was running okay in the practices, and you're probably thinking to yourself, are you recommending this guy, or are you telling me not to play? All right. Here's where the first part of my
build him up to take him down.
Yeah, right. Build him up first, and then cut his knees out from under. All right. The first problem I have is I think the masses are going to flock to him with this new scoring system and the price adjustments. I think a lot of people are going to see that he qualified 5th, to see that he's running good, and they're going to just snatch him up at that 7,900 price tag. And that's not somebody if I'm going to be on a high ownership percentage guy, I want it to be on Kyle, who can win the race. I don't think Tony Stewart can win the race, and I don't want to be on him even at a cheap price tag with thousands of other people in these tournaments. I just think that anybody that does that is still going on name recognition and not really doing even the work that you've seen him do on the track this week. I mean, I think NASCAR fans just have to be honest. This is not the same Tony Stewart that everybody fell in love with.
No.
I don't know if it's owning the team and he's just got his mind going too many different directions, but He doesn't seem as comfortable in the cars. The cars don't seem as fast. And on a big speed track, man, like like Pocono, excuse me, I just don't see him doing anything but falling backwards like he has all season long.
And that's kind of what he's contradict you a little bit there, but he's kind of known for his big track racing. He last week at the Brickyard, like that's one of his tracks that he really likes to race, and this is the same length, 2.5 miles. But like you said, a differential of 10,800 for Kyle Busch versus 7,500 for Tony Stewart. But your chances of winning and getting points with Kyle Busch are astronomical versus a Tony Stewart. And yeah, he's starting in 5th place. And I am right there with you. I do not have the trust or anything within Tony Stewart for him to stay up front. So I just see him basically falling back into the field and possibly getting caught up in a wreck or something like that.
It's just.
And he's just one of those guys. He has a really short temper too. So if somebody pulls up in front of him or does something to irritate him or piss him off, he just really doesn't care about the race. He's not even in the chase or anything like that. So he just doesn't have all the accolades and everything for him to strive for. So he just is out there and can cause any trouble that he wants to and doesn't really care about it.
Let's quickly look at his last few races and the points he put up. We've got -5, 20, 29. 0, 48, 27, 3, 30. Like he's all over the place, and when he does perform, it's a crap score.
Yeah,
that's really the same score I can get from De Benedetti or any of those bottom feeder guys.
De Benedetti, De Benedetto.
Yes, there you go.
De Benedetto.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
De Benedetto.
Exactly. Any of the bottom. Basically, any of these bottom tier guys will get the same amount of points just going around the track and not wrecking. So yeah, that's why I'm off Tony Stewart, and I think you should be too. I'm sending him to the garage this week. Lear, who are you sending to the garage?
Might go into the garage pick this week for some reason. You can go through all the videos, and we talk about Austin Dillon quite a bit, whether we like him or we don't like him. But I definitely do not like Austin Dillon this week. Along with him and Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson gets a lot of love on this show.
You were like a high school girl with your love and hate of Kyle Larson.
But anyways, we'll save Kyle for later. So Austin Dillon this week. But the guy qualified 4th. He's in a decent spot there to start the race out. But he's only raced here 3 times. And out of that 3 races, his average over that is 17th. Out of 3 attempts, and his price point's really good. It's 7,500, same price point as Tony Stewart, but I just do not see him hanging out in the top of the race here for the duration. He's definitely going to fall back, and last time his brother was racing in this race, Ty Dillon, but I just don't see it. He hasn't had the success here. Also. Lately, he has not been successful either, so I look for Austin Dillon to head back into the field and maybe possibly be a negative player this week. So.
See, I get where your head's at there. I would, if I'm forced to take a choice between him or Stewart, I'll save the money every day and pick him over Stewart. But I just think there's better plays that where you can save even more money that you'll get the same points out of.
So my recommendation this week is. Stay away from Austin Dillon and the number 3.
Fair enough. Now that we've got who we have going to the garage, it's time for my favorite segment of our show, which is the lineups. We're the only show in daily fantasy sports that gives you an actual lineup that we have in a contest submitted on DraftKings. You can compete against us. Heck, you can copy it if you want to. I wouldn't recommend with my current streak that you copy my lineups. But I'm due. So with that said, my lineup consists of, as you know already, Kenseth at the 9K, Hamlin at 9.3. Then I went with Carl Edwards at 8.5. Once again, I'm on the JGR train. Then I went Kurt Busch at 10,100. I already kind of gave you the reasoning that I think he'll be the lowest owned out of the 10K plus group. The best stat, though, that I love about Kurt Busch is he's second to Hamlin in laps led on this track, and he's second to Hamlin in fastest laps on the track. And that's just a sexy stat at 10-1. This guy also has 2 wins on the track, 10 top 5s. I'm game to roll out Kurt, and I have 0 problems. That's why he's locked in on this team. All right, now because I spent up on the 3 JGR racers, I had to get a little bit cheaper here. And
Kurt Busch, he's not cheap either.
Yeah, and Kurt Busch. Sorry. And the first guy I went with is the guy I went with to save money is Biffle. He's 7,100. He went from 27th to 12th in the last race in the spring here, giving us 47 fantasy points. He qualified 25th today. He's cheap. He averages at least a 17th position place finish at Pocono. At that price tag, all I'm needing out of him is that 30-point range. If I can get that out with the build I have above him with the 4 studs, it'll get done. And that leads me to my super value play of the week, which is Cole Witt. He's $5,800, which is just ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
He's my value dart of the week. I'm partly on him because his nickname is called the Ginger Lion. I love that he's named the Ginger Lion. He will deliver. I want you to mark my words. And all we need him to deliver is 20 fantasy points.
Yeah.
And if he delivers even that 20-point mark, he's golden. And if you look over his race history, he puts up 20 points on a consistent basis. And guess what? Last time he was on this track, he put up 29, which is 9 points more than what I need out of him to get that done. And I'm really comfortable with that lineup. The only problem I have with that lineup, if I'm being honest, is that it doesn't have Kyle on it.
Yeah.
You know?
Where's that check that Casey Mears sent you? Casey Mears, I definitely like that as one of your fill-in plays. You picked him, I think it was last week too.
Yeah.
He had a great finish here in the spring, and definitely at his price point. As far as my team goes, we start out with the burning rubber guys. Kyle Busch, nothing left to say there. Shooting for a 1-to-1 with him this week. Second guy is going to be Jimmy Johnson. So those are going to be my 2 workhorse guys. I definitely need them to either finish 1-2, lead some laps, both, maybe go 50-50 on leading laps. That would just be fantastic. And then my third driver is Justin Allgaier. He's at a price point of $6,200. Last spring race, he finished here in the mid-20s, and he started in the 30s, so he had a lot of good positive points there. And at his price point, $6,200, he did qualify late again this race, so I'm definitely looking for him to have a place differential up there, hopefully in the top 20, somewhere in there. So
yeah.
And then my fourth driver is AJ Allmendinger. He's mostly known as a road course racer, but this is a large track with more turns than average. So he usually does pretty well here at Pocono. So he's at $6,300, and I look for him to basically have a mid, hopefully late teens finish because he's starting in the mid-20s. So, and then my fifth driver, Ryan Newman. Guy's just been on fire. He has been producing a lot of fantasy points. Has a lot of good finishes lately. His price point is very doable at $7,600. So he definitely has some good history here too. He had a really good finish here in the springtime as well. So I look for Ryan Newman to also be one of those key players and also get hopefully a top 5 finish here. And I'd love that. And then my last driver. This is for you, buddy, but Kyle Larson, I've got him $8,300. He had some good positive points this past week, and he qualified high. He finished at, I think it was the 8th or 9th spot. And this week he qualified 27th, so he is down there in the dirt.
Doesn't that mean he's due for negative points this week?
Well, I mean, maybe in your eyes, but, and it could happen. The spring here, he had a top 10 finish. So, starting 27th, that's definitely going to be a good place differential guy, especially at his price point is down there a little bit too. So I definitely like Kyle Larson, and he has some good history here. And he did finish well at another 2.5 mile track, which was the Brickyard last week, and actually finished the race. Thank you, Kyle. So do me another one and just get another top 5 finish. So I'd love nothing more than
another solid. Yeah.
Yes. So we're looking for Kurt Busch, Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman, and Kyle Larson in the top 5 this week. Let's get it done, boys.
All right. Well, that's what you're looking for. Mine's a little different. But, that's the nature of daily fantasy. I think we can get it done. I like both of these lineups. The best advice may be to take pieces of both of these lineups.
Yeah.
Put them together.
And it's going to be a crapshoot because you're going to have to literally, I don't know how many times I've already done it this week, but I put lineups in and then go, I don't know, delete, and then go back in and then try to get other guys, put them in there and see what the best lineup is that I could get. But it's definitely going to be a lot different with these 6 drivers and the same $50 thousand salary. So should be interesting to see, man.
All right, guys. Thank you for checking out our coverage of this week. We wanted to wrap that up. Remember to check out our YouTube page, favorite us, share us on Facebook, retweet us on Twitter. Check that out. Make sure to support FantasyDonks.com because it's with FantasyDonks.com support that we are able to bring you shows like this for free. And for those of you that want to take the fantasy a little bit to the next level and hold us accountable, we'll be doing our last week's recap coming up shortly. But we just want to say bye to all of you that just want this week's information. And thanks for watching. And now we're good to go with the new. We're just trying something new, so be a little patient with us while we test this out.
And this is for more of you fantasy geekers out there that definitely want to know all the numbers and stuff. So we'll start out with Kyle Busch last week. Scored 83.75 points. Started 9th. He finished 1st. Only 26.4% owned. And basically that's just a kind of a crazy stat.
I love that you're like only a quarter of the field had this guy.
Hey, 26%, man. I mean, I still think that's for a guy of his caliber, that's definitely decent ownage percentage. Before I continue, though, I do want to say that my 5K Lugnut team that I had last week was absolutely abysmal. They scored 105 points, so I do apologize to you guys out there for that.
And I also want to apologize that we were on Jeff Gordon. And it's not Jeff Gordon's fault.
Scored negative 20.25 points.
Unlike most businesses in the world, this time the old guy in the ARP car did not cause the accident. It was
out of his control,
losing control and spinning into him. He just in a bad spot at a bad time. So sorry if you listen to us there. It costs us money as well as costing you money, but. Sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles, especially in NASCAR.
Started 19th, finished 42nd, was 33% owned, and was $11,000.
Wasn't just us that was on Jeff Gordon.
But I so wish I could go back and choose someone else.
Right, I might have cashed had I done that.
Then we also had Martin Truex Jr. He scored 49.75 points, so good positive points there. Started 13th, finished 4th. Only 5.8% owned, so he was a guy that not a lot of people were on. $12,100 was his price point. So for his price, was he worth his weight in gold for his cost? Probably not, but he definitely finished with positive points there at 49.75.
No.
Your driver, Carl Edwards, scored 29 points. He started 1st, finished 13th. Was only 16.4% owned at a price point of $10,300. So that ownage percentage kind of surprises me a little bit at his price point. But I guess a lot of people were with me that they didn't feel he was going to go 1-1.
Well, dude, he was doing awesome, and then a pit strategy decision
kind of screwed him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's NASCAR.
And that's always going to come into play, the strategies of these guys and how they're going to play out the fuel and the cautions.
And that's my one worry this week with the JGR stacks is of all the teams that seem to have problems with pit strategies, it seems to be JGR.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but I love that stack, so I'm rolling with it regardless.
Nice. And then we also got to squeeze in here. You picked Ryan Newman. I also loved Ryan Newman too last week due to the window issue and starting in the field at 43rd. He was one of the higher scorers. He scored 71.5 points, started 43rd, finished 11th. He was a massive 45.1% owned at a price point of $9,300. So
free square.
Yeah.
Like
we talked about, everybody thought he was going to be sexy, and it was a sexy pick, and hopefully you had him on your roster.
It would be even better with this week's strat, like the way they've set up this week's roster. If you had 6 deep, that free square there would be awesome.
Oh yeah, like, with Ryan Newman as your 6th.
Oh yeah, dude, wow, that would be great.
Some good plays from last week too. Brad Keselowski scored 69 points. He had a horrible qualifying at 31st, and he finished the race at 10th. So he was 29.7% owned and was costing people $11,200. So hopefully you had some Keselowski, because I did have some Keselowski spread out through some of my teams. So just could not beat the 31 qualifier starting position there with Keselowski. I mean, that guy's a top 15 car every week, week in, week out, regardless of the track. So
yeah, pretty much.
And then the guy that was kind of a surpriser, but he actually got 2nd place in the Xfinity Series last Saturday at the Brickyard and was racing with Kyle Busch. But Ryan Blaney, he's one of those part-time racers that is not a full-time Sprint Cup guy, but obviously in hopes of doing so, which he did have a great finish last week. But he scored 54.75, started 30th. He finished 12th. He was only 6.3% owned.
Great value play.
And cost was only $8,500.
That's the kind of guy that'll put you on the island. Like, yeah. I'm worried that too many people are going to be on Cole Witt this week because of his track history here and the limited exposure that he's had on this track. But the swerves, like, are the other cheap guys. Like, a lot of people don't go that route. A lot of people try to mid-tier it and play safe. And we've seen that there's occasionally a week where that play safe works, but oftentimes you've got to find the cheap guy that performs as well as the studs.
And we also, my other guy, my kind of sleeper guy, wasn't Ryan Blaney, but I did play some Ryan Blaney last week. I just wish I would have paired him up with this other guy. I don't know why I didn't. But Chase Elliott, also a part-time racer, he finished with 36.75 points. He started 28th, finished 18th. Was only 15.4% owned, and cost was $8,300. So if you had, Busch, Keselowski, Blaney,
and
Elliott and Newman, there was your massive lineup.
That's probably the perfect computer-generated algorithm lineup if you can get there after the points.
So hopefully one of our lineups this week in the lug nut will be good enough to take it down. So
yeah, and if for some reason we don't win, which is seemingly standard for me in NASCAR right now. We hope it's definitely one of you guys, and hoping you get it done. As for the viewer questions, we did have a question this week, and somebody wanted to know why I wear sunglasses on the show. And they wondered if I was being too cool. It's one of our one of our close friends, and I simply put it this way: I'm not trying to be too cool or anything. I have multiple computer screens open, and unless you want me having my eyes look all weird by staring at various objects, various computer screens, it's way easier to just deal with the sunglasses. So that's why we're
and then that way you guys can't tell that what he's reading is over here, and he looks like he's looking right there at you.
Right, the trick of the trade. So hopefully it doesn't bug too many of you. Hopefully that answered any questions. I would rather answer questions about fantasy NASCAR,
for sure.
But we'll take what we can get at this point in time. Remember, if you have a question, feel free to tweet us at Big Papa Debate or
at Jamie Lear, Liehr, JamieLiehr.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure everybody knows how to spell Jamie there.
Well, there are multiple ways of spelling it.
All right.
But no, definitely we love interacting with you guys on Twitter, especially on race day. We have gotten some questions on Twitter, so we're always on there right before the race. So if you have any questions, line up, hit us up, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. But definitely spread the love, and hopefully we're helping you guys make some money, and love doing the show.
And it may not always be the right advice, but it'll be well thought out.
Yeah,
and
sure.
A lot of work put into it.
I definitely want to say thank you for spending 30 minutes out of your week watching us. Also want to thank NASCAR, thank DraftKings for the formats, and we appreciate the love.
All right. Have a great weekend, guys. Good luck in the races. Enjoy it.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Good luck.